morning, everyone. Welcome to Los Angeles. Our final meeting of final 2017 year. And this is our, as everyone knows, this is our first webcam meeting, so welcome to anyone who is watching either live or who will later be watching this. A few announcements before we start on the main agenda. Fortunately, a few people were not able to attend: Janet Coulter, Don Shepard, Aurelio Torres, and at the last minute, Neil Thacker, who was in the airport, his flight was canceled, so we will be missing them. Jerry Klein and Mark Lester are in court fighting for their respective clients and will be here once their hearings are over, probably within the next hour. The next meeting is February 9th. It will be a one-day meeting also in Los Angeles, so hopefully everyone, including those who couldn't make it here today, will be able to attend that. For those of you who have liaison assignments, I was told that all of the January meetings are being postponed and a new schedule will be set. So if you plan to go to a liaison meeting in January, wait for the new schedule, and then you'll be able to go in February or whenever the new meeting is set. So I want to thank Adrian for setting us up for a great dinner last night. It was fantastic talking to everyone who was able to attend and getting to know people. And I also want to welcome to our second meeting with us, second of many, Amy Nunez. And it was excellent sitting by you last night and learning we shared UC Berkeley graduation and about 30 TV shows that we both watch together. So welcome, and we look forward to seeing you at many future meetings.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah. So I want to, again, before we get to the main agenda, thank Gail. Gail Murphy is, I think everyone knows, this is, unless she changes her mind in the next 9 days, this will be her final meeting. So I wanted to make some remarks, some of which were pre-prepared, some of which I will just say off the cuff. But Gail was originally from Oregon. She was an English major with a graphic design background. Hopefully this is accurate, if not, maybe more fake news, but I'll try to, I'll give you...
I must have been talking last night too. So.
Yeah, I'll give you time to correct anything I get wrong. But Gail joined the State Bar in 1980 following a long bike trip along the California coast into Mexico, which I want to hear more about, maybe over lunch. And she started as an administrative assistant with the State Bar, rose through the ranks to Director of Admissions, Director 3, it says on your name card, and joined the Legal Specialization program and became part of our program back in 2006. And on a personal level, not to make this all about me, but I first met Gail about 6 or 7 years ago when I first joined this committee, and at the time I didn't even know what CBLS stood for, but I've worked with Gail over the years, and Gail, you've always been an excellent source of institutional knowledge, a great champion for the program and the public interest. And we will miss you, but we're sure you're going to be on to great things in your retirement. And hopefully you'll keep in touch with us and the program. And I have something to present to you. The bad news is if you'd stayed 3 more years, I'd be handing you keys to a silver Mercedes for the 40th. But I want to hand you this certificate of appreciation. And personally thank you for all of your work. You're not done, you have work to do today. But best of luck in retirement. And
Here we go.
Allotted 40 minutes in the agenda for you to now make any comments. But
well, I will say a few things. I have to say, I was just, when I got this job, actually when I started it was the senior executive for admissions, and then it became the senior director, and now I'm director 3. So, things changed. Although the job never really changed a lot in the sense of what you had oversight responsibilities for. So I knew I knew something about legal specialization, having been with the organization for 37 years, and knew the people that had done it prior to Natalie coming, and always had great respect for the program. But it was really, to me, it was kind of a fun new assignment to learn all about legal specialization, and I certainly have become a champion of the program and believe it's one of the most important things the State Bar does. Obviously, admissions discipline are primary, but I also think that this program is all about regulation, and the people that I've seen come through the ranks and through the board are all very dedicated to ensuring that regulatory aspect of the program is primary and paramount. So I want to encourage you to continue in that vein, and you know, hopefully in a couple of years, this is the largest legal specialization exam ever, and in large part due to your and Natalie's team's efforts. And I really think it should become, now there are people who thought that you should, if you want to be a specialist at all, you know, forget about the certified, you should go through the legal specialization program. And I think for public protection, that in fact might be a grand ideal for the future. So I will continue, well, I probably won't do much actually when I'm retired, but I will continue to clap. I'm not sure I'm going to tune in to the webcast later, but I really appreciate the opportunity of working with all of you, and it means a great deal to have your friendship and your support, and hopefully we don't lose touch. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you left us in good standing, and we look forward to working with Amy at this meeting and in future meetings. All right, so if everyone could turn to page 5 of the agenda, and we have the open meeting action summary from the September 8th and September 9th, 2017 meetings. And has everyone had a chance to review them? If not, I'll pause for a moment and let people review them. And does anyone have any questions or comments or suggestions of revisions to the open meeting action summary?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Michael. I was getting to that. but yeah, hearing no, let's have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving?
Aye.
Any opposed? So they are approved. And let me, as a second matter, do a call for public comment. And looking around the room, I do not see any members of the public. So having no members of the public and no public comment, we will move on. The next matter on the agenda is on page 7, which is the financial and operational key indicators, which typically Neil would present, but since he is still at the airport in San Francisco, let me turn it over to you, Natalie, to go over the financial and operational key indicators.
So you have in your packet at this point the operating statement through September 30th. Normally we would have October at this point, but it does take a little bit longer toward the end of the year to close. You'll see the program remains on budget as planned, and there are currently 4,930 certified specialists active in the program, including dual specialists. You can find more detail about specifics of program metrics, including program retirements, as well as compliance with the relatively new educational reporting year education as of February. This has been some changes that people have really enjoyed. It's helped them to plan their schedule more efficiently and to space out their education throughout the time as well. I'd be happy to take any questions about the key indicators or the operating statement.
All right, so turning to page 18, the post-examination application status, which I think Natalie, you're also talking about.
So after people pass the examination, the next step that they take is to file their application. Some do so immediately upon completing the exam. Others are still working against the requirements, and they have up to 3 years to do so. And they can also consult with the department with any questions they may have to help them gain that necessary background to ensure their proficient practice. You can see the attached charts. At this point, they still have plenty of time to apply if they have taken the exam in 2015. And so you'll see that we have many more takers that take the exam in the 2 to 4 year period, and they use that time to get the experience and the time and practice that they need, but they are in touch with the department. And it's resulted in excellent follow-through, excellent achievement of the certificates of specialization. And we've been really happy about that. Those that took the exam in 2017 are, of course, awaiting their results. Those are scheduled to be mailed on March 15th, and after that date, they will be eligible to file their applications as well.
Question.
Go ahead, Bob.
Lou and I and Mark were at the exam site, and there were about 20% people that were signed up for the exam did not show.
And we'll be talking about that in the facility report later in the meeting, yes.
I have a question. Do we know this time in 2015 approximately what percentage of 2013 applicants had received and certified?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I could get that information to you for comparison. Would it be helpful to add that type of comparison to this indicator?
It might be. It might make it more meaningful. It'd be nice to know that we're roughly on track, or perhaps things are looking up. Better still.
Yeah, I agree. Any other questions or comments on the post-examination application status? John?
I'm not sure as a point of order whether we need to do this or not, but I noticed on both financial indicators and on the report on the post-examination application status, there was an action item at the end of each one. Natalie, do we need to have a motion to receive and file those two reports, or is that not necessary?
It would be appropriate. You're not taking a policy step, but it would be appropriate to mark the receipt.
I would make a motion to receive and file those two reports.
All seconds. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, they are received and filed. Thank you, John. Which brings us to page 21, which is the 2018 budget. And I don't think you've covered it up yet, Natalie, so why don't you talk about the 2018 budget, since I think Neil would normally cover that, he's not here.
Okay. So the budget for the legal specialization program is prepared as part of the overall consolidated budget of the entire state bar. The budget is presented first to the Board of Trustees, that step has been taken, and later to the legislature. You can see the budget as it was proposed to the Board of Trustees attached here, in line with the plans that this board created, including the reserve investments for 2018. I know that you had this in your packet over the course of the week, so I'm sure that you have all refreshed yourself as to its contents. You can let me know if you have any questions. One change that you will notice is that the indirect costs are budgeted to be higher in 2018, but this was expected. Part of the reason for this is due to the departure of one of the groups of the State Bar of the Sections into a separate nonprofit California Lawyers Association. Therefore, the shared costs of the State Bar facilities are now spread across a smaller number of groups. So it was expected that that would increase, and the program is prepared for that increase.
So that's what the indirect costs are. Those are the costs we share for meeting space or various things like that.
HR, general counsel, all of the common costs of the bar.
All right. Lou?
Is there an algorithm that is applied to assess this program with those additional administrative costs?
There is, and if the board would be interested, we could invite someone from finance to come and discuss that at a future meeting.
I, for one, would like to see that.
I will make note of that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say if the person from finance is in LA, let's do it at the next meeting. If they're in San Francisco, we could do it at the next San Francisco meeting.
Happy to do so.
So Natalie, you might want to talk a little more about the increase in professional services.
Sure. Okay. Right, you'll see the most significant line in the budget is the professional services line. So that's the line that houses the expenditures that are planned for the addition of professional drafters and cultivating a professional grading team. Right now, the advisory commissions are doing a wonderful job drafting. The psychometrician has indicated that the numbers are the best we've ever seen in terms of quality of the exam. But with that said, it takes everything to get one exam ready at a time. So having these pro drafters come in will alleviate some of the burdens of the advisory commissions, but also create a bank that will not only leverage efficiency, but hopefully help the program to give the exam more often in the future. The drafting comes first. Once we have the bank, then we can evaluate other options to increase the frequency of the exam delivery. But that's the hope that this project can bring.
So the next exam's in 2019. What's the timing of actually completing that exam with these professional drafters?
Well, the professional drafters will be drafting in the background against a bank. So the exam offered in 2019 is scheduled to be completed in May of 2019.
Okay.
With a combination of the help of the professional drafters and the advisory commissions.
So a lot of those increased expenses in 2018 are actually connected to the spend down of the reserve that we approved, some of which were originally budgeted for 2017. And we just haven't been able to accomplish that in 2017. So 2018 sounds like a good plan, and that's why it's there. But it is significant because we're talking about after that, the reserve being within the limits, if you will, the reserve policy of the state bar is for the trustees. But everything is also conjecture in the sense that we still have to spend it, we still have to get materials. A lot of this too is related to the new computer system, and that would be in which line item?
That is a $500 investment that at the moment is off book, but would be under the computer hardware and software.
Is that the $250,000 incremental increase from 2017 to 2018?
That is actually the cost that would be expended for a system to house the drafted questions. That's thought to be separate from the main Ames computer system. So Ames computer system will be the backbone in admissions. And separate from that, we will have a document management system to house the questions. We can't choose the document management system, or it's not wise to do so, until we're certain of the backbone system to make sure they can communicate well. But that will be something uniquely for this program and will be a separate expenditure rather than a shared expenditure.
So the $250,000 increase to 2018 in computers and software, how is that $250,000 allocated?
That's allocated for the document management system, so it's thought that the main system will be chosen at the beginning of the year, and then the bid process can begin for the document management system.
But that doesn't include the loan to the admissions fund. Where does that appear?
No, that's not on this document, and I understand that at this point. So the intention is that this program has set aside $500,000 for its portion of the purchase of the admissions system, and will also be making a loan in the amount of $1 million to the admissions fund to help admissions fund its portion. That loan will be repaid to this program for ongoing program initiatives, primarily designed toward increasing the frequency of the exam. And those loan documents have not yet been drawn up. They will be drawn up in connection with a specific purchase against a specific vendor for the computer system. So right now, those funds are still in the fund balance of the legal specialization program.
Natalie, I have a follow-up question on the document management system, the $250,000 set aside for that. Does the possibility exist that you can bring in that document management system in the Ames software system?
Depending on the vendor chosen, yes.
Okay.
And so that certainly that's part of what we would evaluate to make sure that we don't duplicate and we choose something of the best value and the best utility for the agency.
And the other thing I think of note of this budget, of course, is your revenue with regard to the administrative fees. As you can see, if you recall, this year we gave them a holiday, any legal specialist a holiday, and next year there's no holiday. And in fact, what's the status?
Yes, so the fee is being billed to all specialists at the same level that it was prior, and it's on the fee statement as it always has been. The fee statement itself has changed. The fee statement is all electronic now, and it went out just maybe
Last week.
Yeah, on Friday, I believe. Normally it goes out on the 1st of December. There were a couple of cleanup items that the Board of Trustees needed to act on at the beginning of the month. So those bills are now out, and those of you in the room who are attorney certified specialists probably also received a newsletter from the organization just reminding you of that, but also telling you other program news as well.
Sort of related to this as well is the State Bar effort to require everything to be paid by a credit card or ACH. Now, if you know your fee bill is pay electronically and pay fee to do so, but I think in the past, like all the applications for legal spec activities were basically a check, or they could use a credit card. So beginning, the Board of Trustees will be considering this matter in January, and providing they say go forward, then all legal specialization fees that we can convert, if you will, to a credit card transaction, that will take place. But also associated with use of a credit card is a handling fee, or the credit card company is charging us. So that would be attached as well.
So do we get less of a membership fee based on the credit card charge? We
No.
get less in pocket?
You have less in your pocket.
That's what I'm saying. No, but I mean, for our commission, do we
No.
pay out the credit card charge out of what we?
Right now, we would, if someone used a credit card, that fee would be absorbed by the fund, and now that fee will disappear because, I mean, as an expense, if you will, it will be sort of transferred, if you will, to pay for that fee. So
But we can pay by check too, this year. Because that's what I printed.
for the
mine out.
membership, I think you can pay by the, what's it, ACH, where you can sort of attach it to
Electronic
your
check.
bank account. But I don't think personal, I
Yeah,
don't know what
check.
it said. I don't think personal checks are being accepted anymore, is that?
Well, from the firm.
I would have to
I
double
don't
check
know.
on the fee statement, whether a
I
paper
thought
check.
Yeah, I thought it said you could pay, you
Still
could
pay
print
by
it out
check,
and pay
yeah.
by check, because our firm pays for us.
Right.
Is this the first year they've done it this way? I don't remember last year.
I think they introduced that last year.
And it
uh,
worked
the,
out well.
electronic opportunity to pay by credit card, which a lot of people, that's certainly anybody that's 25, that's all they use, or the credit card or the debit card. They don't even know what cash looks like, so, or checks. They don't even,
Yeah.
That's a
but
huge burden for a firm, like that, for example, if our firm, yes, to put it on a credit card as opposed to check, it's a huge.
Well, right now, so last year, the electronic opportunity started, and the local specialization program didn't participate in that because that year there was no fee on the fee statement. The program was going through a fee holiday. So though this is year 2 for many, it's year 1 for us, we're learning. So at this point, I'm not certain on the fee statement, but certainly all of the other applications in the program still accept a paper check at this time, and at this point accept a credit card with no fee. So going forward, the Board of Trustees is going to be considering some changes. I'm not sure whether the paper check will still be allowed, but there will be a no-fee method such as an ACH type thing, and they're finalizing what that will be. for a credit card transaction, the price charged to the agency will be the same, but on top of that will be a convenience fee. And also concurrent with that, we are now able to accept Amex and Discover, which were choices that we could not accept previously.
Probably Bitcoin next year.
Is it possible that we set up, like, utilities allow you to put in your account number and your routing number for your check, so that the check is then drawn out of your checking account? That's probably what Robert refers to for firms. It's more convenient that way.
And that's what I believe that they are looking at. So there will be a credit card option, also with a convenience fee, and then some sort of ACH type option that would not involve the fee. And I'm not certain about paper checks, but I can find out about that.
But ACH, I think, is a version of the paper check. You put in your routing number and account number, and it draws out of your checking account.
Right.
Natalie, who put together the newsletter? It was really nice and well done.
It was a joint staff effort, and Adrian coordinates the sending, so Adrian, thank you for that.
That was really well done.
Good job, Adrian. I have one other question. Given that there was the fee holiday, what was the administrative fee revenue for 2017? Was that people who paid 2016 late that was credited to 2017? Why is that number zero?
There still were other fees that were paid, so people continued to pay recertification fees, duplicate certificate fees, post-exam application fees, exam registration, which is actually another line, but that's there. So there were fees that were charged and paid for the program. Simply the fee that was on holiday was the annual fee, the $360 annual fee.
Natalie, I have a question for you. The professional services is $2.5 million for 2018. What do you at Yale and Ames anticipate the amount for professional services to be in 2019, if you anticipate anything at all?
We expect it will be substantially reduced. So the fees will return much to their similar level. They will primarily be looking for psychometric costs, the exam consultants, and maintenance of the questions. So maintenance would be checking the questions against whether or not there was settled law, are there law changes, are there date changes, things like that. But it should be substantially reduced, a small percentage of that cost.
So then, does that mean for 2019, the board can expect that the revenues and expenses will be approximately the same, plus or minus a little bit?
Yes, so it is the intention that starting with 2019, we'll see a budget that is in balance with the State Bar Reserve Program. So this program should have a reserve of at least 10% of annual operating expenses, but no more than 30%. And when this budget was being put together, the reserve expenses were taken out for purposes of analysis to make sure that that was true for this budget in this year. So if we were to create two columns and say these are the reserve columns only, these are the typical operating expenses only, you would see that type of presentation in this year as well. It's the addition of the reserve investments only that create the planned large loss that you see. It's a budgeted loss for the pandemic reserve.
So it's really just an extra item for this year that will not occur in the same or even close to the same magnitude in future years.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? John?
If we're done with these discussions, I move that the 2018 preliminary budget be received and filed.
I second that.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Any opposed? They are received and filed. All right, so continuing in the open agenda, we are up to staff reports. The State Bar of California staff update. Is that Gail? Any?
Yes. First, I again want to thank everyone for treating me to dinner last night. That was really quite lovely, and I appreciate it very, very much. And two, I would be remiss in not saying, you know, one of the best things that I did during the course of my affiliation with this group was to hire Natalie Leonard. Under her management, the program has only thrived. We had good management before, but Natalie's been great. So I think you are really lucky to have her at the helm here. And hopefully she plans to stick around for, well, she's young, so she can stick around for a long time and help you get all your goals realized. And I think, I really think, you know, a lot of Natalie, and you're lucky that you have her.
That's emotional.
We agree. We agree.
Seconded.
Yeah.
Which, you know, has allowed me to just, you know, play whatever all the time because Natalie's got things in charge of her, or she's in charge. So just a few things with regard to just the admissions aspect, because it does appear in the news a lot. The bar exam results came out in November and they were up, which was nice, but not high enough for some schools. And but it appears that things are on the way up with regard to the bar passage rate, even though the court said that the passage line should not be lowered. In fact, there were several more people who passed the exam, and we had almost 1,000 more people take the July bar exam than were anticipated. So that was good news for them. The other thing that happened was a report was filed with the Supreme Court, and consistent with their request, or its request, that report on the what was happening with the bar passage rate be given to them. And essentially that communicated the several reports that have already been completed, and that was the first one, which was sort of using what data we had, the performance, you know, why was the passing percentages why were they going down? And as much as we could tell, it appeared that a lot of it had to do with the makeup of the people who were taking the exam, that, you know, what was happening at the law schools was difficult to tell. But in fact, just the percentage of repeaters of the total would cause the overall pass rate to go down, for instance. And then the report on the cut score, again, that showed that, in fact, the cut score that had been established was appropriate, although they had given two alternatives to the Supreme Court for lowering it. The court, again, just kept it at its current 1440 and suggested that if it wasn't over, that the bar had the right to come forward and make other suggestions, but not right away, I don't think. And then the third one was the content validation study, which basically looked at, I think there were different perceptions of what it was supposed to do, but some thought it should be related to, should we be testing all the 13 subjects that we test? Others, you know, should you be testing with using multiple choice questions versus essay questions? And all that was not completely covered by the study, but essentially the study said that it's a reasonable exam. So at this point, there's no reason to immediately change it without further study. And I think ultimately what's come out of that was that a job analysis study be done. In fact, what is it that newly admitted attorneys need to know with regard to minimum competence to practice law? And so that's a 2018 project would be to conduct that study and then do a content validation study again. And again, see whether we should get rid of the multiple choice, have all performance tests, go down to the bar and ask questions, you know, whatever it might be. And so that is ongoing. Money has been put in the admissions budget to cover that study. And I say this, you know, you might be just generally interested, but I also think it overflows to the whole legal specialization exam. And these are things that you as board should continue to look at. You know, are your exams valid exams? And should you be doing it the way you're doing it? And you should continually be looking at, you know, there have been reviews of maybe we should convert it all to multiple choice, or, you know, and then there was sort of back and forth, and you should not discontinue those discussions, because I think it's very important that every board or committee continue to look at the validity, the reliability, the fairness of the exams that you give. And are the pass lines appropriate? You know, that pass line I don't think has been looked at for some time.
6 years.
And so maybe it's something, again, you need to put on your agenda for the future, because at any point you could have someone challenge it because you haven't. And that was, I guess, one lesson that we learned through the whole admissions is there were several who were very critical of the bar, the Committee of Bar Examiners, because it hadn't conducted validity studies ever, but that's not quite true. There had been many in the past. And there are reasons that we had not done it for the last 10 years, and it was related to litigation, things like that. But I think that as a group, you should sort of be looking at your exam to make sure that you're doing the right thing still. Having your psychometrician come in and just so going over, you know, what is it you should be looking at continually. You should always, in my mind, have money in the budget dedicated to ensuring that you're doing what you should, because, you know, when you're certifying these legal specialists, you want to make sure you're doing it right. So I think that's a lesson we kind of learned through this whole admissions process. And I mean, it certainly is heartening in a lot of ways to know that we haven't completely been off base with regard to what we've been doing with the bar exam all these years. But it also shows that we have to keep studying it and making sure that it is doing what we want it to do. So I think that's pretty much has occupied our time.
So I have one comment and then two questions, and then we'll turn it over to others. But the comment, I remember the psychometrician coming in 6 years ago, roughly. That's about when I started, and talking about maybe we should go to multiple choice and it wouldn't impact the end result. But I don't know if we have it scheduled for this year, but I would suggest once the results are in, we schedule the psychometrician to one of our meetings this year, once he or she has analyzed the 2017 results, so that we could hear from him or her about what happened and whether we should reconsider anything. So the two questions, one for the specialists, has the pass rate changed over the last 10 years such that we should reconsider the pass line? And then one question for the bar in general, has there been any review of the impact of the 2-day test, and were there good advantages of that or disadvantages? People, I assume, loved it, but let me turn
well, I have to say from the sort of applicant staff experience, it was a joy to be able to go home after 3 days, and because you had to be there the first day to set up, and after 3 days instead of 4 days, or if you were an extended day after 7 days. And the applicants just, I'm sure, were much happier to be done on Wednesday than on Thursday. So from that perspective, you know, I think I really don't know of any disadvantage at this point. I would say the only disadvantage that you might have in the future is if you had some disaster occur during one portion of the exam, you wouldn't have as much left of the exam to impute scores for the part during which the disaster happened. So that's rarely going to happen. The 2-day exam itself, there are going to be, or it's ongoing right now, an analysis of the exam, because there were models that were used to sort of predict what the pass rate, not the pass rate, but how it might impact different ethnic groups, minorities, women versus men, not versus, we're all in here together. Men, women, whatever. So it just, that will be ongoing, and that report will be made, I believe, in a month or so. And to ensure that it's sort of going along sort of what was predicted as far as impact, and that it is not disproportionately impacting one group over another group. So, yeah, that analysis will take place. So.
What is the makeup of the 2 days? Is it, they still do the performance?
Right. There's 5 one-hour essay questions and 1 90-minute performance test, and then the 200-item multiple choice test.
Okay.
And so there were those who were critical of only having 1 performance test instead of 2, because a lot of people believe the performance test is more like what you really need to know as an entering lawyer. Because you have, it's kind of open book, you have all the resources there, and then you have to be able to think and write. And there are, you know, the reason that the committee went that way was in order to have an exam that was similar to what it had been in the past. The same sort of reliability, if you will, that you needed to have more questions than if you're taking up a whole afternoon with just 2 questions as compared to 3. It's just a different kind of impact. And the more questions that you have, you are actually giving an applicant more opportunity to show they know what they know. If you only had 1 question, you know, if they blow that question, they're done. Whereas when you have more questions, you have more opportunity to show what you need to with regard to being competent. And so I think, you know, that's why a multiple choice test is as much as people hate them, it's a wonderful thing in a lot of ways, because if you blow 1 question, you're not out of it. You know, you've got all those and more to try and show that you know what you know. So, but those are kind of the testing principles that, again, having a psychometrician come and sort of talk about the different modes of testing, I think is important. A lot of the professional tests that are given for other professions, such as doctors, nurses, massage therapists, are all multiple choice tests. And I think in some people's mind, it's like, well, why can't lawyers be like everybody else? And I think where the sticking point is, at least in the past when there's been talk about trying to get rid of the written questions, is that you have to be able to show that you know how to write. And not write a brief, but that you need to be able to communicate a thought in writing. And not that the spelling is great or the grammar is great or anything, that you need to be able to communicate.
Yeah, I remember the psychometrician, and not for the bar exam in general, but for the specialization exam, feeling very strongly that if we switched to all multiple choice, it would not impact the pass rate or who passed at all. But for those of us who have already passed the bar, passed the specialization, it's hard to wrap our heads around having it all multiple choice. So I don't know, that may be why it sort of stalled when he was talking about perhaps switching. I remember there was a lot of opposition to it, and we ended up kind of deciding on that.
Right. I mean, multiple choice is a lot more, it's more expensive because you have to maintain the bank of questions and keep replenishing it and,
yeah,
and
but
that kind
easier
of
to
thing.
grade.
And it's so much easier to grade, and if you get results out, I mean, you know, in a lot of the licensing, you know, like in other professions, basically they know how they did when they walk out of the test center because the computer has more or less been keeping track of it. So certainly, you know, you just got to keep on top of, you know, what's happening and what's new, and you know, if changes in the future, you got to accept it. So.
Lou.
I know that when I chaired the BLAC, we spoke to the psychometricianist about the written exam. We expressed to him that the written exam provides a view, as Gail said, on writing, but also the written exam portion is almost as if a client is sitting in front of you, where you have to very quickly evaluate the issues that the client is giving to you, and then be able to convey to the client in a very quick manner what you believe those issues are. And that's really where you're testing the proficiency of a certified specialist is, in that moment of a client sitting in front of you and testing that kind of real world scenario. When the BLAC talked to psychometricians about it, I think it kind of a light bulb going off that that's a different scenario than you had thought of, and I think it's one of the reasons we continue to have the written exam.
I agree. When we, as lawyers, you have to express yourself to clients
Quickly.
You have to express yourself to judges, you have to express yourself to other attorneys, whereas other professions don't have that type of expression, and the essays tell us so much about how they present themselves, how they express themselves.
Yeah, so just to keep this on track, thank you again, Gail,
Sure.
for your report and answers to all of our questions. And moving on to the legal specialization program update. Natalie, I think that's you.
Okay, the majority of our updates will relate to the exam, so we'll talk about them in the closed session, but there are a few administrative updates. First of all, to let you know regarding the educational providers, there will be new pricing in the new year. So it will be going up a little bit, but also there'll be some joint pricing for folks who apply for both the MCLE approval status and legal specialist approval status. There will be one consolidated application, and we'll be changing the website as well. So that will be rolling out in January. This should make providers more aware of the opportunity to apply for legal specialist education, and to make it easier for them to apply by going to a single place. So that will be happening shortly. There is no change to the requirement for the specialist. They will still complete 36 hours of legal specialist continuing education or an approved equivalent during their normal 3-year compliance period. So this change applies only to the providers, and we hope that the change will make it easier for people to participate in the program. Next update is about the Ames computer system. So Ames is the name we're giving to the Bedrock computer system that we hope will replace our George AS400 mainframe system. Ames is the admissions information management system that's going through the standard bidding process for the state bar right now. The process is proceeding, and there's a demonstration going on next week, and we will have member Cynthia Levin and Vice Chair Michael Berg attending that demonstration.
Where will that be?
That will be in the State Bar San Francisco. Also, Gail and Amy will be attending as well, along with members of the Board of Trustees and other individuals. So we hope that early in 2018 a vendor can be selected. And once a vendor is selected, we'll share with you a rollout timeframe. We are very hopeful and excited for a new system, and very excited to move as quickly as we can within reason. But we are really hopeful that it can bring a lot of changes that will be great for the system, great for analysis, and also great for members. Next thing is, in January, the Board of Trustees will be having its planning meeting at the end of the month. And once we have that information about the board priorities for the year, we'll bring back some information to help you create your 2018 work plan in line with the Board of Trustees priorities for the year. So at your February 9th meeting, I would expect that that would be a big topic for discussion. That's what I have.
All right. Unless I'm missing something, if so, Natalie, let me know. I think that concludes the open meeting agenda. Is there anything else we need to cover in open meeting?
I don't believe so.
All right. So do we have a motion to close the open
Motion
meeting
to
agenda?
close the
Open session?
Second.
Everyone in agreement?
Aye.
All right, well, let me, right before we close, just thank everyone here for participating and thank everyone who was watching for watching us have our meeting. And that will be it. We will now take a break and move into closed session upon returning in 15 minutes.
closed session.
So Joe will let us know.
Pardon?
Joe will let us know.
So nervous, everybody's so nervous.
I know. I do. See, that's because I don't have a, app.
If you want. Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. So, yeah, you could leave that.
Accountable. Board.accountable.
What time is your flight?
Board.accountable.
LAX.
.ca. .gov. /
All right. So we have completed the closed session of the meeting. I wanted to announce for the record that Mark Lester and Jeremy Klein have joined us. They were here for the closed session as well, and they both did amazing at their hearings. And looking around the room, no public member has joined us, so there still is no public comment. And with that, this meeting is adjourned, and everyone have a good weekend. We will resume on February 9th for our next meeting.